Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with a Miss Fortune updated complete guide. Now I'm not actually sure if I've already did an updated complete guide on Miss Fortune. I think that I have, and this is yet another one, another updated complete guide, because honestly I feel that the build has changed significantly enough to warrant another complete guide and not something like a supplementary guide. So regardless, as usual for our updated complete guides, we will not be covering the skills in leveling order. For that, you can refer to the original complete guide, which of course I will be putting up in the cards above for your reference. So instead, in order to save time, we're going to jump straight into the build. So Miss Fortune in the latest patch actually got a buff. The most important buff she got was the 10% AD increase on her ultimate, AD ratio increase. So basically her ult will do more damage, especially in the later stages of the game when you have more AD built already. However, in the early game she has always been strong. So her early game is alright. Her mid and late game, generally she falls off, but her ultimate is going to be putting in a lot of work regardless of what stage of the game you're at. So that is still all good. And she also got a buff on her strut for faster rotations. So I'm actually going to go straight over to the build. Miss Fortune is actually my highest win rate AD carry. So I actually have a 74.4% win rate on Miss Fortune. So I do know what I'm talking about. I do have mastery on Miss Fortune as well. So just putting that out there. So Miss Fortune has 3 builds I'm going to show you guys today. So first up we have Lethality, secondly we have Crit, and thirdly we have Hybrid. So first I'm going to just briefly talk about when you build each one. So generally you go for full lethality if the entire enemy team is squishy and they don't have any tanks at all, and at most like 1 or 2 fighters. So let me give you guys an example. Like for example, if the enemy team has all squishies but they have like a Lee Sin or a Jarvan or a Vi in the jungle, they are technically not tanks, but they're generally gonna go for Guardian Angel as their second or third item in general. So they are still gonna build AD. Not AD, they're still gonna build armor. So the thing about the lethality build is that you have 10 lethality here, you have 15 lethality here, that's only 25 lethality and a percentage armor penetration here, but it's not really gonna work well even if they build just one armor item being the Guardian Angel. So lethality is really best used into a team like, for example, you have a ADC, let's say a Enchantress support, a assassin jungle like Kha'Zix or Rengar, for example, and you have like a Orianna mid, and let's say you have a Yasuo top. So Yasuo and like the assassin jungle, let's say Rengar, they are gonna build Guardian Angel, but they're only gonna build that as their last or second last item, not like Jarvan, Vi, or Lee Sin, who's gonna build it like second or third item. So it's really not gonna be effective against those people. So that's when you go full lethality. Now if you go full crit, it's normally into a tanky team. So if they have like a Jarvan jungle, they have like a Darius or Garen or Dr. Mundo top. It's something like if there's at least like 2 tanky or 3 tanky characters or tanks in general, like let's say a Mundo top, a Jarvan in the jungle, and like a Nunu mid for some reason, then you probably want to go for crit. And if there is a mix of squishy targets and non-tanks, like for example if you have a Lee Sin top, a Jarvan jungle, and 3 squishy characters, you might want to go for the hybrid build, which is this. So I'm gonna quickly go through the builds. So basically for every build, if you guys realize, I have a philosophy on Miss Fortune which does kind of differ from other people, where I feel that Miss Fortune needs mana immune, because Miss Fortune is probably the most mana hungry ADC out there. And if you don't build the mana mule, you're always going to be running out of mana. And in my opinion, you waste too much tempo by constantly having to recall to get mana, or constantly having to redirect yourself to like the river to pick up honey fruit to get mana. Although there is a counterpoint where if you build the mana mule, you're losing out on a little bit of damage, because if you were to build like another crit item or another lethality item, it would technically give you more damage than mana mule most likely. But I feel that you need the mana from the mana mule, and the mana mule when it evolves into the mirror mana is no slouch when it comes to damage as well, because it will like double your damage when it triggers procs the mirror mana. So I always start with the mana immune, and my second item, regardless of my build, is always Serelda's Grudge. So the reason that you need the Serraldo's Grudge, besides the obvious the AD and the ability haste, is of course not for the armor penetration, which is only going to get better later on because you're building it second, so the armor penetration is going to start off pretty low, because maybe when you build it you'll be like level 8, level 9, it's not really going to be that high yet, but you need the slow. So damaging active abilities and empowered attacks slow enemies by 30% for 1 second. So your E already has a slow, and combined it with Serraldo's Grudge, the slow is insane. It's almost like a root because it can barely move. And the main reason you need Serraldo's is because when you ult, that entire ult is going to cause the enemies to be slowed, and you'll be surprised that enemies underestimate how strong the slow is, and they won't flash the ult until they realize it's too late. Sometimes they try to flash out and they still get hit by the last wave and they die. So the Serraldo's Grudge is really essential to Miss Fortune. She really needs it to slow people down, to hit more damage on her ult. So basically you need the slow for the damage, essentially. So those will always be our first two items. Then I like to go for boots. Normally I go for Gluttonous Greaves because there isn't really any healing in any of these builds. The only other healing source you have is the Hunter Vampirism, so I like to go for the Gluttonous Greaves. Of course you can also go for defensive boots if you need to, or you can also go for the Ionian boots if you prefer that. So for the lethality build, I'm actually going for a Dustblade and the Edge of Night. Now, basically you just go for two lethality items here. You can also go for the Youmuu's Ghostblade, but personally I don't think it's very necessary on Miss Fortune because she has the passive on Strut, which allows her to rotate very quickly already, so I don't think she needs the movement speed from the Youmuuu. So I like to go for the Dustblade for just more damage, because it gives the most AD and armor penetration out of all the lethality items, and it has a damaging passive, which is the Night Stalker passive, which causes you to do more damage when you're unseen for at least a second. So then I like to go for the Edge of Night. This one gives a bit of max health. Of course it gives you the Armor Pen, the 10 lethality, and it gives you a spell shield that blocks the next hostile ability. So the spell shield is really useful in a lot of instances, especially against, like, let's say a Blitzcrank or some mage, or let's say a Veigar Cage. Like, it's very useful against a lot of things, and Edge of Night is just a very good item in general for Miss Fortune when she builds lethality. And for the last item, I'll of course go for GA, because Miss Fortune is a immobile ADC, so it's very easy for, like, especially like assassins like Kha'Zix or Rengar to just instantly assassinate you, and you need the Guardian Angel in order to survive. If you don't want to go for a Guardian Angel, you could always go for a third lethality item like Umbral Glaive or Youmuu's Ghostblade. Of course, that's up to you. And then we'll go over the crit build. So obviously first two items the same, last item GA the same. The only change is now you go for Infinity Edge and Solari Charge Blade. So obviously, Infinity Edge gives you crit, a huge amount of AD, as well as increased crit damage, which of course will synergize with your Q on its bounce that always crits. So now, actually, the reason why I'm going for Solari Charge Blade is because Essence Reaver is a very weak item at the moment, and I don't really like to go for it anymore. And you could also go for another crit item like Bloodthirster or something like that, but I feel that Solari Charge Blade is actually really useful. Previously, I didn't really go for it because I feel that Miss Fortune doesn't really spam that many spells, but actually she does spam quite a bit. Her Q is on like a 1 second cooldown in the late game, you spam that. Her W resets very quickly when you hit your passive in the late game, so you spam that as well. Your E is also pretty spammable, so Solari Charge Blade actually does pretty well on Miss Fortune, despite what I previously thought. So Solari Charge Blade is the way to go. So two crit items here. And for the hybrid one, pretty much you go for the Infinity Edge first, and then you go into Edge of Night. So the first two and last item pretty much always remains the same. Of course, you can switch out the GA for whatever other item you prefer. Personally, my favorite build is the lethality one, or the hybrid one. I don't really like going for full crit Miss Fortune anymore, because generally I pick Miss Fortune into like a squishy team most of the time anyways. So for the runes, you always go for Conqueror, of course, because Conqueror is just OP, and no other rune synergizes with MF better. For the second one, always go for Hunter Vampirism, because that's one of your only two sources of lifesteal, and if you don't go for Gluttonous Greaves, that's your only source of lifesteal. So you always need that. For the second one, it's either Bone Plating or Hunter Titan. If it's a heavy CC team, go for Hunter Titan. If it's a heavy burst team, go for the Bone Plating. If they have both, it's up to you which one you prefer. And of course, for the last one, Sweet Tooth, just for the healing and the sustain for both your health and mana in lane. So with all that out of the way, we can actually jump straight into the gameplay. Alrighty, so here we are with the gameplay itself. So, of course, as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And any questions you guys have, feel free to put it in the comments below, and I will respond and help you guys out. So, as you guys can see, my team is so juicy for Miss Fortune. Now, just look at that. We got a Cannon Ultimate, we got Nunu's Snowball, Nunu's Root, Nami's Wave, Nami's Bubble, and Diana Ultimate. Mainly it's a Cannon and Diana Ultimate. Just imagine the combo with Miss Fortune out on those. So I saw what my team picked, and I just had to pick Miss Fortune. Like, Diana was the one that was picked last, but even if I just saw Nunu, Cannon, Nami, and myself, that's a Miss Fortune game right there. So here we're laning up against a Draven and a Leona. Now that's a very aggressive lane, because basically if Leona gets a successful engage and Draven is in the vicinity, he gets free auto attacks. Basically it's a free kill for them. So basically if Leona engages, it's a free kill. So here I'm going to show you guys not only a Miss Fortune guide, but at the same time, how do you play against a Draven lane, particularly a Draven lane with a aggressive engage support like Leona. So now as you guys can see, I'm just staying far back. I'm just trying to take my CS, and I'm not playing too aggressive. Honestly, Nami is playing a little bit aggressive here. Now that's okay, because we cannot, while we don't want to play aggressive, we don't want to give them too much. We don't want to give them a free lane where they just farm freely without any pressure and just get out of the laning phase just having felt no trouble at all. So at the same time, we want to harass them a little bit. As a Miss Fortune, I do have my Q, which I can bounce on a minion to hit the Draven. As you guys can see, I've been doing that relatively consistently, but at like level 1, level 2, level 3, I'm not going to be doing that much damage. So Draven has been taking damage, but not anything too significant. Nami hit some nice bubbles and had some good traits with her W as well. So overall, we're doing pretty good in the laning phase. Now, as you guys can see, just using Q alone to poke, I didn't even use W or E. I'm already at nearly half mana, so Miss Fortune really is very mana hungry. Here we hit level 4, and the game plan still stays the same. The wave state has reset, and all we're going to do is we're just going to try to last hit the minions. If Draven pushes, which most Dravens will push just because they have to maintain their juggling, then maybe we want to attack the wave a little bit more so that we don't keep getting pushed under tower, where if the enemy jungler is good, he can coordinate with his bot lane to dive. So here, I'm just trying to keep the wave in a semi-neutral position or slightly pushing towards us. But we don't want it to push all the way into under tower, because with a Draven and a Leona and any jungler really, it's fine. But in this case, the jungler is Shyvana, so she's most likely going to be full clearing her jungle, or at least clearing until she reaches level 5. So we should be relatively safe at the moment. Here, Leona obviously stepping up, looking for an engage. So if she steps up, just be wary of your spacing and just don't let her engage on you, basically. So here the game plan is pretty successful. We have managed to successfully not get engaged upon, and we didn't even take a Draven auto attack, if you guys have noticed. So we're playing the lane extremely well. So here we actually managed to outpush the Draven for a little bit, so we can back and pick up a tier as well as the Caulfield's Hammer, of course building towards the Manamune, as we have previously discussed. And when you're in base, you can just spam 1 or 2 spells just to charge up the Manamune a little bit faster, but don't do it on the way to lane, unlike Varus or Ezreal, because if you do it on the way to lane, you're going to be running out of mana on Miss Fortune. So here, putting down just a ward towards the dragon area, which serves 2 purposes of number 1, seeing if the enemy team is on the dragon, and number 2, to see if Shyvana is coming up through the river for a gank. So here, we're back in lane. The game plan remains the same. We are still just simply CSing and just preventing or not preventing, but making it hard for Leona to engage just because of our general positioning. So here, of course, we are all level 6, including the enemy team. All of us have ultimates on the table now, but at this point in time, nothing too much is coming of it. Here, the enemy team is obviously on the dragon. We can see that from my ward, but no one has rotated yet. Diana has just showed up to the party, so I'm just going to pick up the minion wave. So here, we actually get the cannon out coming in, and I get layer the Miss Fortune out over the cannon out. I don't pick up any kills, but my damage contributed to 2 of my team teammates picking up the kills, and then we transition to the mid lane and straight down to the Rift Herald. Now honestly, I would say my team, in terms of the fight, they played it pretty well, but in terms of the map awareness, not really, because a Shyvana will always go for Dragon on spawn because she needs dragons to scale, so we have already given her one free mountain dragon to scale with, whereas that was easily avoidable if everybody simply just turned up to the actual fight. Here, Olaf and Aurelion Sol decide to go in basically 1v5. Does manage to pick up a kill onto the Nunu, but we managed to trade onto the Olaf, so pretty much nothing too much comes of it. Of course, we're now on the opposite side of the map, so Draven and Leona are going to be pushing in, so we're going to quickly recall and make our way back to our lane to prevent them from getting too much gold or too much tower damage just from the tower plates itself. So my team, as I said, my team should have shown up to the dragon on time to actually contest the dragon, because Shyvana would definitely be there, and we basically gave them a free dragon. Here Nunu comes in, nice snowball hitting the Draven in max range. Here I ult to get out the damage onto the Draven. Leona engages, but Draven is nowhere in the vicinity, so we're relatively good. A nice roam by the Aurelion Sol. Diana is way late to the roam, so here we're going to just try to get the Leona. We do get the kill on the Leona, pick up the kill on the Aurelion Sol as well. Here, I bounce off the minion to get the guaranteed crit onto the Draven for the double. So here, Nunu actually drops the Herald in the top lane, but we don't actually have any damage on the tower yet, so we need to get at least a plate to actually secure the first tower. Here, Rift Herald charges, leaving the tower at about 100 health. So here it's a little bit of an iffy situation, because I'm at about half health and half mana, and Shyvana has ult, so honestly, that was a pretty risky move by me, because Shyvana could easily have just ulted onto me, and I don't have any summoner spells, so I could have, reasonably speaking, I could have died there. But, you know, I wanted that first tower, so luckily the Misfortune did not actually take any action, so I actually managed to get out scot-free, getting away with murder right there. So here I picked up my Manamune. Of course, we're going to have to charge that up to 700 stacks, and other than that, I'm of course building towards my Sorela's Grudge. So Draven is back. We can see Leona is of course in the bush because of our ward there. Clearly she doesn't know it because she's just camping in the bush, perhaps waiting for us to come. So here a fight kind of breaks out in the river between the two junglers, as well as Diana, who is actually faster on the rotation this time, although nothing too much comes of it. Aurelion Sol is pushing mid as a result, so we're going to try to roam mid to actually take advantage of that, but Nunu scares him off. So Misfortune's roams are actually pretty good, and you can actually consider roaming like mid from time to time, just because of how fast Misfortune roams. Because of her Strut's passive movement speed, she actually moves from lane to lane pretty fast, and from like base to lane really fast as well. This fact is actually commonly underestimated by a lot of people, and really Misfortune traverses the map really quickly actually. So here I actually spotted Draven like somewhere around, so I'm actually heading back just to clear the mid lane, because Diana has already cleared the top lane. So here I'm just going to stay mid, pick up the mid wave, get the mid wave pushing, and get ourselves mid lane priority before the dragon. Here Shyvana, Leona, and basically the whole gang, the whole 5-man gang of the enemy team goes bot, gets kills onto Kennen and Nunu. So here we're just going to trade the tower for their lives. Instead, at least we get something out of it. Dragon is of course spawning in 5 seconds, and we know that Shyvana and team probably have reset and are going for the dragon, but honestly at this point in time we can't contest it just because we don't have Nunu and Kennen. So instead I just recall to get my Sorela's Grudge, and I'm gonna be walking straight to the dragon together with the Nunu and the Kennen as they spawn out of base. So we're gonna go there as a unit itself. We can see Shyvana has just shown up to the dragon, as well as her team has shown up to the dragon. She can't do it that fast, so we have shown up actually in time for the fight. Of course, here I'm waiting for somebody in my team to ult. Here Nami ult, so I'm going to get off a dice format out. Here Kennen ult, Diana ult, everybody ult, and the whole enemy team gets decimated. So really nice there. Nunu secures the dragon as well. And basically we get a very clean ace. Now this is what my team comp is supposed to do, is the 5-man wombo combo with the Kennen out, the Misfortune out, the Nami out, and the Diana out, just all together. At the same time, why not throw in a Nunu out as well? So really, that is what this team is made for. Of course, we secured the dragon. The whole enemy team is down. Of course, the logical move is we rotate to the Herald and pick up the Herald as well. So here now, me and the Kennen are 2-manning the Herald, and Kennen picks up the Herald. Some shenanigans happen in the mid lane, so I'm going to rotate to see if I can help out, but Diana is clearly dead, so I'm just going to have to run away so that I don't just die as well. Nami turns up to the mid lane, not where she wants to be, and the whole enemy team is basically pushing mid lane. Honestly, here if Diana engages, they could easily dive us, but thankfully she didn't, but she definitely could have. Alright, so here Nunu is coming in. I'm getting a nice ult because I can see the Draven is going to die from my ult, and unfortunately Aurelion Sol ults me and I die to the Ignite, which is really unfortunate. Nothing too much I could have done there, but my team trade off a bunch of kills. We're just trading back and forth. In the end, it turns out to be a Kennen versus Shyvana matchup. Now, the enemy team, in the end, we traded 2 for 4, so I don't think it's worth it. Like, me and Nami died, but 4 of them died on the other hand, so technically it's worth it. And my team is starting to pull ahead in terms of gold, so we are nearly 5k gold ahead of the enemy team. So we're doing pretty good. Alright, so now I'm of course doing pretty well, and I'm just going to pick up the red buff, particularly because Nunu doesn't do very well with the red buff because he is a tank anyway and he's building full tank. He has gone for Sunfire Aegis into Randuin's Omen, so he isn't really going to be doing that much damage anyway. The only real use for red buff is the slow for him, and me with my E slow, Serelda's slow, and the red buff slow all together is going to be really potent. And of course, giving red buff to ADC always makes sense, particularly if they're fed. I'm 3-1 and 11, not a lot of kills, but a lot of assists, a lot of KP, and a lot of damage overall. So still makes a lot of sense for me to take the red buff. Here, Nunu is going to put a stop to the Olaf split pushing. Nothing too much happens here, so I'm just going to use the downtime to pick up the Skull Crab. Always good to secure the Skull Crab vision, which cannot be removed. Alright, so here Shyvana is pushing mid lane, so we're just going to respond to that, obviously. Clear up the mid lane. And honestly, the game is pretty neutral at this point. Of course, there are many random fights just breaking out all over the place, but there aren't any objectives to fight for, and nothing too much is happening at the moment. So it's kind of like a lull period in the game, where sometimes it happens. So here, in this particular game, I'm actually going for the hybrid build. Now, the reason for that is we have a actual tank in Leona, and we have the Shyvana and the Olaf, who's likely to build some armor later on in their build. Now, they haven't actually picked up any armor items yet, but I do predict that they will be getting a Guardian Angel sooner or later, so that they are falling to this category of champions that get Guardian Angel as they're like, somewhere later, in the later half of their build. So that's kind of the intention here. So Aurelion Soul Carrier is behind me. We kind of try to collapse on this and see what we can do. But here I get a very nice ult angle where the entire team is stuck in there. Unfortunately, I get disrupted a little bit by the Leona, but we still managed to secure 2 kills. And they chase for the Shyvana, and they get the kill on Shyvana as well. Just in time for the Dragon Spawn, which is coming out in 5 seconds. Olaf is the only member of the enemy team alive, and he is obviously in the mid lane, so he's not the biggest of concerns. So yeah, basically your main job as Miss Fortune is just to find good ways to ult and find ult angles. Like, really, your ult has like only like 3 uses, which I have actually gone through in my previous complete guide, I believe, which is obviously just for straight up damage and wombo combo potential, zoning people away from places, or just to wave clear. Wave clear, you will rarely ever see people using ult for wave clear unless you're losing really badly or you urgently need to wave clear something. So generally, not you use it for damage. Here, of course, we already have Muramana. We already have our Serral is completed, and we're almost to the IE. Now here we have picked up the IE itself, so here we're going to be doing pretty well as well. IE is a really good first crit item pickup for Miss Fortune because it enhances her Q damage, as I previously mentioned, but her ult can also actually crit. Her waves of her ult can also actually crit, so that is actually going to be really useful, just to increase the damage of her ult in general. Now, in general, the name of the game for Miss Fortune is increasing her ult damage. Here, we get into a little bit of a sticky situation. Thankfully, we don't really get caught. Here, the entire 5-man enemy team is there. Here, I'm just trying to look for an ult angle. I overextend a tad, and I end up having to use stasis, but I'm still gonna die. I get a kill onto the Olaf before I die, and yeah, pretty much just die right after that. So here, it's a classic mistake that people make on Miss Fortune, where you're just trying to find a good ult angle and you're standing way out of position. Kind of my bad there. I didn't really realize that I was walking so far up, and the entire enemy team obviously just jumped at me, obviously because that's the most logical move. But thankfully, my team comes in on top with another ace, with Kennen and Nunu surviving. So my team is slowly pulling further and further ahead of the enemy team. Now we have slightly over a 5k goal lead on them. But in all honesty, I kind of made a mistake there, but I'm still 6-2 and 14, still doing alright. And of course, we'll be looking for those dream ultimates like the one you saw at the Dragon Pit just now. Technically, that's what my team always wants to look for. That's the main reason we have this team comp. It's just for the wombo combo potential. And the main reason why I actually picked Misfortune in this match. So here, of course, red buff is up. I'm going to be picking up the red buff. As an ADC, you're always going to pick up whatever farm you can find. Here, I find the Krugs up. So I'm going to pick up the Krugs. And nothing too much is happening again. The Baron is up, of course, but neither of our team can really do it. Obviously, their team is weaker, so it's not the best idea. And my team is not so far ahead that we can simply just walk up and do the Baron with no consequence. So as a result, no one is really paying too much attention to the Baron. And instead, we're all just basically going around the map, just trying to find farm is what I'm basically doing. So here, Draven having not the best time. He still has 0 kills, and he's just going to die yet again. Only worth 200 gold now. His price rapidly depreciating. But yeah, so here we find a pick onto the Draven, so we deem it a good time to go for Baron. Whenever you find a pick on the enemy team, generally is a pretty good opportunity to go for Baron. Here, enemy places a ward, sniffs out our intentions, and yeah, so Olaf is flying right in. And here I'm just waiting for an angle to ult, of course. So here Kennen ults, and I ult over his ult, so we do get a pretty good ult. The Shyvana actually manages to steal the Baron, but I'm going to flash the wall and get the kill onto the Shyvana. And the Leona is the only one left alive as of now. She has 1 HP, but she actually manages to escape with 1 HP. So nice steal by the Shyvana, but the only person with Baron left is the Leona, so it's still fine for my team. Not the worst, technically speaking. We lured them in and we killed. We traded 4 for 2 and Baron, but since the only 2 of the enemy team got Baron, it honestly is. I mean, since only 1 member of the enemy team got Baron, it's fine. Technically, we still won that trade. And of course, the Elder Dragon is coming up, which of course, whether you have a Shyvana or not, every team is going to want Elder Dragon. So of course, it's going to be an area where there's going to be a fight in. So me and Diana are kind of positioning ourselves around the area. Of course, we don't want to get ourselves caught. I do have the Edge of Night already, so I do have that spell shield, but of course, it only blocks 1 spell, and I'm just going to get insta-bursted if I get caught out of position. So here Nunu turns up, and my whole team is just hovering around the dragon area. The enemy did actually ward the area. Skull Crab spawns, so we're just going to take the Skull Crab. And we can already see Aurelion so backing in the top lane. So I actually think it's a pretty good time to actually start up the Elder Dragon. Of course, the enemy team can see us doing the Elder Dragon, so we're going to remove the vision there. I'm just going to see what we can do. The entire enemy team is coming from the top side, and of course we're going to be very careful about this. Aurelion, so as expected, is coming in with his huge stun. I actually immune it with my Edge of Night, and I get it out across the entire enemy team, slightly off the screen, but not sure if you guys can see that, but I actually get it out across the entire enemy team. Does huge damage to the entire enemy team, and basically everybody dies but the Shyvana. Shyvana is trying to run for the hills, but she runs back near me, and I managed to actually get the final shot in on her, which causes her to die. So we actually get a clean ace. So we don't really have any waves, so we cannot exactly just straight up go for the end. So instead we're just going to pick up the Elder Dragon, and then we're going to push and see if we can pick up at least an inhibitor. So actually, I do think we have enough time to end. We have a mid wave, so likely we can just run straight down mid and end. The enemy team is about 15 seconds from spawning, so we're going to go straight from the inhibitor. And we have a TP coming in from the Diana. Of course, we're going to end. So here I thought we couldn't end, so I was pinging retreat, but actually we could. After we started just hitting the base, realized how much damage we actually do to the base, so it goes really, really well. So here we got the victory. So as usual, I will be leaving you guys with the stats. As you guys can see, we of course did extremely well. So thank you guys for watching the video, and goodbye.